All right, everyone, welcome. It is 12:30. We're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you for coming to this unexpected extra training due to technical difficulties last night. So glad you're here. So this is Create a Life You Love, How to Build a Strong Family and Move Forward on Your Biggest Goals. So first of all, please welcome. Please introduce yourself into the chat box. I would love to know where you're from, where you're tuning in from. It'd be great to hear from you guys and get to know you a little bit better. I see Amanda's here, Andrea's here, Pamela's here. I know a few people are still trying to download the Zoom app to join us. So Pamela's from Iowa. Wonderful. You can type that in as you're able to, and we're going to jump right in today. So you are in the right place if you want to find clarity on what matters to you. You want to use your small pockets of time to make progress on your goals. If you want to put all your ideas and plans and dreams into just one organized place. If you want to create a balance throughout the whole year. And if your goal is to build a strong family. So today, this is what we're talking about. We're going to talk about the 3-step framework that's going to help you create a life that you love. We're going to talk about what to do with your goals, whether you need to lean into them or maybe let go of them. We're going to talk about 3 planning habits that's going to help take your vision and what you're hoping for the year and break it down into quarters and months and weeks so that you can start making big progress. We're going to talk about how to check everything off your to-do list, and we're going to talk about the simple system that's going to organize all of your thoughts. Amanda from Colorado, wonderful. And Michelle joined us. Thank you for being here. This is going to be fun. All right, so this is a little bit about my story. So in 2013, I had my first baby, and she was wonderful. I loved her. I loved everything about it, except that I was surprised to find that I didn't know what to do with my time. I spent a lot of time just holding her and sitting on the floor. I was surprised that I would feel guilty if I did anything that didn't involve her. And it was a sweet time, but it was also a pretty challenging time for me. I just felt very lost as a mom. And I had also completely ditched all planning things entirely. And I think that didn't help. I went from being someone that had a 2 pages a day Franklin Covey planner to absolutely nothing. And so I had no intentionality, no framework, but I didn't understand how you could plan when you had children or a child that didn't follow your plans. So then in 2015, after I had my second baby, I realized like something has to change. I don't think that I can keep going this way, because I was getting to this point where I just felt this tension between feeling frustrated that I was feeling guilty when I was sitting on the floor with my kids because my mind was racing other places and I felt like I was missing their life. And I was also just feeling frustrated that I wasn't making progress or moving forward on anything else besides sitting on the floor with my kids. And I loved them, but it wasn't very fulfilling. And there was just a lot of unknowns. I still didn't know what I wanted in my life. I still didn't understand what motherhood would look like for me. It was very not sure. But, oh, Rachel, thanks for joining us. So, but it was at this time that I said I was going to turn over a new leaf and start planning. So I looked high and low for a planner that might work for me as a mom, and I couldn't find anything that had spaces in the right places or that didn't feel like too big of commitment where I would get like, I don't know how to fill a whole day. That was like very anxiety inducing, trying to figure out how to fill a whole day. So I decided to grab a notebook and create my own. So 2 years later, in 2017, I had my third baby, and I had now been using my notebook system that I had been tweaking for a number of years, for 2 years. And it was pretty incredible because now I was starting to get some momentum and build up some ideas of what I wanted my life to look like. And paired that with being able to use my small pockets of time with how I organize things in my notebook to make big progress. So in 2017, my husband's in grad school and is really, really busy. We had 3 kids, a brand new baby, but this is the time where I'm starting my Thriving in Motherhood podcast. This is where I'm building big pieces of furniture with my kids. We kind of started homeschooling then. So there was a lot going on, even though it was a really hard season. And so I think that was an amazing witness to me of the power of having a tool that could really help me focus my energy and my time when I had it to move forward on things that were important to me. And so today, it's been now 4 years since I started this. And last year, at the very end of the year, I shared my planning system in my notebook on the podcast. And then that turned into a printed planner that we sold and used for 2019. And I was blown away at the difference I experienced in having something that was already written down that I could just write my thoughts into without spending energy and time recreating spreads. Because 2019, that's this year, 2019 was insane. We moved across, did 2 cross-country moves. My husband finished his PhD. I dislocated my shoulder. I had surgery. It was a very intense year with our circumstances. And yet this is also the year that the podcast started growing and turning into a business. We were selling products. We had a lot of things going on with our home. We've been building furniture together, and we've been going on adventures and on trips. This is us in Boston. I attribute this 100% to being able to have this tool and system that helps me use what time and energy I do have really, really well. Looks like Kim joined us. Welcome. You guys are welcome to introduce yourself in the chat box. I'd love to know where you're from as you're joining. Okay, so qualifications for teaching today. So first of all, I'm a teacher. I in college spent 2 years teaching students, faculty, and staff how to use Adobe and Microsoft classes. So I've spent a lot of time learning about how to teach adults. I also have a secondary ed degree. I taught middle school and high school, and I taught at an online charter school for a year as well. So I love online education. I'm also the host of the Thriving in Motherhood podcast. So I've spent 2 years talking with moms about their challenges, their successes, how they're navigating it, and how they are learning to thrive and enjoy life. I think when I started my podcast 2 years ago, I named it Thriving in Motherhood because that was my hope. I hoped that I could find how people were loving and finding joy in life, even when it was challenging, and new and different from what my life had been like before. And so I've given a lot of time and energy and thought to what thriving looks like. And then I'm also a mom who's very much in the middle of motherhood, like all of you. Jenny, welcome. Thanks for joining us today. So my entire life changed the moment I picked up my blue planner and blue notebook in 2015. I went from feeling overwhelmed and guilty and not present in my life to feeling confident and doing things that I love with the people that I love and moving forward on my greatest goals. And if I can do it, so can you. That's what we're going to talk about today. So here's a couple of things to keep in mind as we're to prep our discussion today. These are some really important mindset things. So first of all, we all have limitations. We all do, whether with time, with energy, with money. We all have those limitations. But we are also all very creative beings who have amazing potential to problem solve and figure out how to work within those limitations. The second thing is that the priority that we're focusing on is building strong families, not just our kids. For a long time, like early in those first 2, 3, 4 years of motherhood, I was caught up on my kids are supposed to be my priority. My kids are my priority. But the problem with that way of thinking was that there wasn't room for me in the family when my kids were the priority. And it also kind of shifts the balance of my objective in my day when I'm just focusing on the kids as the priority. When I focus on building strong families, the pressure on them is totally off. They can just be themselves. And how I respond to them, my long-term goals for them, focusing on healthy relationships is kind of shifted into a better place. And there's also room for me in the family. And I've started to recognize that my family really is only as strong as I am, because it's when I'm grumpy, I drag everybody down, or when I am not taking care of myself, that permeates the whole family. So when I wanted to focus on building a strong family, I also had to start focusing on my circle of influence and doing what I could to make myself strong. And another principle here is that success is in the doing. It's not the outcome or the result that we're looking at. So when you start thinking about creating a life you love, setting goals, trying things out, it's the doing that is your metric for success, not the result. And then we're operating in our circle of influence, and that is what you can control, your thoughts, your actions, your personal choices. Your power increases. So a lot of times as moms, we can get caught up in our circle of concern. Those are things we worry about. Those are things we'd like to have control over. Those are things we would like to change. but we can't. And so the less time we spend there and the more time we spend in our circle of influence, the more power that we'll have. So today we're going to look at the 3-step framework to create a life you love. Step 1 is begin with the end in mind. Step 2 is to create your plan. And step 3 is to live your life, not your plan, live your life. Okay. So with begin and the end in mind, there are 2 camps here that you might find yourself in. I have found myself in both in different seasons of my life. So the first camp, I have dreams, ideas, goals, and I'm just trying to figure out how to make space for them and fit them into my family. Okay, that's camp 1. You do have ideas. You know what you want. Camp 2 is I have no clue what I want my life to look like now that I'm a mom. I'm feeling stuck, and I really just don't know what I'm aiming for. Okay, so what camp are you in? Are you in camp 1 or 2? Go ahead and enter that into the chat box. I'd love to hear where you're at right now. And again, it's fine. I've been in both. Both are fine. Okay, Rachel is in 1. Lots of ideas and dreams. Got Pamela in 1. Amanda's in 1. Excellent. Andrea, a mix between both as life is changing. Absolutely. Camp 1, emphatic. All right. Well, good. We're going to start with that. Let's talk about camp 1. Last night we had a lot of people in camp 2, so this is kind of fun. All right. So we're going to start talking about those ideas that you have. So first, we need to decide whether the goal, the idea, the dream that you have is something that you need to let go of or lean into. And I think it's really important to take time to ask ourselves these questions because who knows where your dream started? It might have started well before you were a mom. It might have been something that's been with you forever. It might be something that you saw somebody else doing and were interested in. So we just need to take a time to evaluate whether it's right for us. So is your dream, idea, goal, plan in your circle of influence? Do they fit in this season of life? Do you have time? This is a great question. Do you have time that you are using for other things, either like spending it on social media? That would be a very obvious, like, oh, I could just work on my goal during the hour that I'm spending mindlessly wasting, right? Or have you said yes to a whole bunch of things that don't matter to you, that if you were to switch those to no's, that would open up time for working on a goal? Is it something that helps bring you joy and feel fulfilled? Is it something that would strengthen you and your family? And just like I talked about with the mindset shifts, it doesn't have to directly be about your family to strengthen your family. For example, podcasting has nothing to do with my family or my kids, but it's something that fills me up and helps me be a way better wife and mother because it's really fulfilling for me. So that strengthens my family. And so some goal like that could also be strengthening for your family as well. Another question is, what inspiration have you had from God? Have you had any guidance there? Or have you started walking down the road and giving it a try? I think oftentimes when we have goals and dreams, we just get stuck in wondering if we should pursue them instead of moving forward. And sometimes you have to move forward to find out that it's definitely not a good thing right now. And sometimes you just keep moving forward and nothing stops you, and it's great. So both are good options. All right, so I want to hear from you. What are some roadblocks that stop you from working on and making space for your greatest goals? So go ahead and answer in the chat box. If you don't want to talk about what stops you, talk about what you've seen being stopped. Like what stops us as mothers, as women, from moving forward and making progress on our greatest goals? You can enter in the chat box. All right, Rachel, I waste time on busy work stuff instead of essential stuff. Absolutely. Okay, we got a yes from Kim. All right. That is a great start. This is some things. Oh, Michelle. Okay. Not feeling like my nucleus is structured yet. Oh, I like that. We're going to talk about that. Pamela, energy and allowing other things that seem important at the time to stop me. Yes. Amanda, I have a baby and I am always so tired because he wakes me up so much. Yes. 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 Andrea, a busy, messy house. Absolutely. Kim, housework and kid activities. Yes, these are so valid. Yes. Okay, let's dive deeper into some of these things. So here are some of the ones that were from last night's conversation and that I had thought of that have personally stopped me. Mom guilt, which I've learned to combat with a lot with that shift to building a strong family. Lack of time or energy, which goes back to, like you guys have described, and it's totally valid. But I think it's really important that when you decide to lean into a goal, that you remember that you're super creative and can work within your limits. So that might mean help. That might mean, asking people to help you. That might mean getting really creative with how you're using your time or how you're entertaining your kids, or, anything. But the point is that if it is something to lean into, you can be really creative and solve problems. Fear that stops us from doing things. That would be successes in the doing. Lack of a plan to use the time that we do have. And I think that is described some of the things that maybe you reflected, wasting time on busy work stuff as well. And then we've got lack of clarity and direction, which we're going to talk about today. And then I think a lot of what you guys have also described in this would be that without having that progress, you don't have momentum. And so you lose some energy and enthusiasm for that goal that you are interested in pursuing. So we're going to talk about Camp 2. And I know a lot of you talked about, so we're talking about Camp 2, and we're also going to talk about this really important path, which I think is more relevant to you guys on the chat today. So this is the 5-step path to get from surviving to thriving, okay? And the important thing to note is that nothing is bad on this path. Like none of these steps are bad. They are just describing your circumstances. You can have a thriving mindset no matter what your circumstances are. Okay, so the first step is surviving, and it is a bare tree in the winter. It was not obvious that we're producing fruit right now, okay? So when circumstances are bigger than you and normal life is disrupted, that is survival mode. That happens when you first have a baby. That happens when you have a baby that's not sleeping or kids that aren't sleeping. That happens when you have mental or emotional or physical health things that pop up and make it so life is a little bit harder or impossible to keep up with as you normally would. That happens when your kids get sick, or they're having things that you need to help them with, or a marriage relationship is struggling. Those put you into survival mode, and it's okay. The next stage is, and I will say the good part of survival mode is that this is often where we're learning wisdom, where we learn some of our greatest lessons. This is where we can focus on becoming. It really changes who we are for the better. It can be for the better. And it helps build our strength. When you hit reentry, we've got a little seed, and I love that it's a seed because it's what it feels like, where you take a seed and you throw it in the dirt and you bury it with lots of dirt on top, and then that little seed has to use all of its energy within itself to burst through to the surface. So this is when you're transitioning back into normal life. So this probably means you're catching up on dishes and laundry and general house cleaning, and maybe getting groceries again and getting the pile of papers and bills reorganized, things that just stopped being done when you were in survival mode, which is totally fine. But it does take a lot of effort to get through. I named it reentry based on my experience going from right after my second was born, I was really sick and I'd gone back to the hospital. And when he was a few weeks old, I had all of the help leave. And I just felt like we were entering a spaceship, entering through the atmosphere that was getting really hot. And we weren't sure if we were going to burn up and die or make it through to the water. So that is why it has the name reentry. That's what it feels like. All right. 3 is normalizing. This speaks to a lot of what you guys are talking about. So this is when you are establishing rhythms and routines back into your life. This is really exciting when you get here, when you're trying to, establish those cleaning routines and basic things to help keep your house running well. And it's a good thing. But if you get stuck here for too long, if you get stuck in normalizing for too long, it can start to feel mundane. You can start to feel like you're losing yourself in motherhood. You can start feeling that frustration if you aren't moving forward on goals or ideas or things that are important to you. And so it's really important that we move into exploring which we've got as a little icon as a bee. And this is where you're discovering what you love and what aligns with your core values. The reason why I love the bee so much is because not only are they just like buzzing around and seeing and looking at lots of things, but also because what they're doing is collecting pollen to take back to the hive, which is going to turn into food and really nourish their family. So we are looking for things in that exploring phase that is nourishing us and is nourishing our family and bringing beauty and joy and wonder into our lives. And the final phase is thriving. The prerequisite for thriving is that you are sleeping through the night and ideally exercising. That is when you're going to feel your absolute best. But this is where you're living a well-balanced life with your time and your energy being spent on things that matter most to you. So this is where your time and your core values and your priorities are all in alignment. And I would say in the time frame of a year, because seasons ebb and flow, our responsibilities ebb and flow. But if those values are represented within the course of a year, that's a pretty good thriving metric. So I'd love to hear, where are you on the path? Go ahead and answer in the chat box. And again, there is not, and none of these are bad. They're just our circumstances. So where are you in the chat box right now between 1 and 5? Okay, Pamela is in surviving. Andrea, I'm in survival mode in some important aspects of my life. And I agree that survival mode teaches us so much. Absolutely. It is not a wasted season, and it's not something to be scared of either. Kim, exploring and some days thriving. Yes. Oh my goodness. That's so exciting. Amanda, re-entry. We just moved in with my parents and my husband gets deployed. Okay. That is definitely re-entry. Awesome. Rachel, 2 to 3. Yeah. Re-entry and normalizing. Absolutely. And I think this is also a good time to mention this is a skill set. It's never one and done. You don't just go from surviving to thriving and then you're set for the rest of your life. This is something that is going to get easier the more that you go through it. You'll learn skills and pitfalls and things to be aware of. I do want to share one thing though, because this is really important about exploring. One of the biggest pitfalls of exploring is, there's two. One is that we can get so busy exploring and like observing other people's lives on Pinterest or social media, or just be paralyzed by fear that we're not actually living our own lives. We're just watching other people live theirs. And so it's important that we at some point start taking action in our exploring and not just get stuck in researching. The other pitfall of exploring is that we can get so excited with all the great things that are happening that we can put ourselves back into survival mode by overcommitting. And it's okay to do those, but it's nice to notice that that's what's happening so that next time you're walking your way through the path, you can make a different choice and maybe make it less hard on yourself. Okay. So you all have great ideas, it sounds like. But for those, there was a lot last night that didn't, and I just think it's so important if you ever find yourself there. So looking for, what are you drawn to on, social media or Pinterest, or, if you're spending time there or you feel like you're scrolling there, what is it that you're drawn to? What about other families are you drawn to that you notice and love that you would want for your own family? What things did you love doing before you had kids? These are all ideas that could help you start thinking about how you wanted to influence your own family and create this life that you really, really love. So in the chat box, I'd love to hear, especially since you all have ideas, what are some things or people or sources that have inspired you and help you identify the type of family and life and mom that you want to be, or even just give you ideas for your big goals? I'd love to hear in the chat box what your sources of inspiration have been. And while you guys are thinking, I'll go ahead and share some of mine in just a minute. So Pamela, great women in my life. Yes, people that you've seen. Absolutely. Amanda, friends, Thriving in Motherhood podcast. Thank you, Amanda. Yeah, friends are great. Friends can be some of your best exploring buddies, for sure. I'll share some of my sources with you. So it took me a really long time to have any idea of what I wanted motherhood to look like. And I ended up reading a lot of homeschooling books from like some homeschooling leaders, because I figured, this is my thought process. I was like, they have their kids at home with them all day. and they do school too. So I bet if I didn't have to do school and I have my kids home all day, like I can glean what they're doing to keep their household running with kids at home with them all day. And in doing so, I discovered different philosophies and of like Montessori and Charlotte Mason and Waldorf, which has really influenced how we've set up our home and what I provided my kids with and how we've set up our family systems and structures. So they spend a lot of time building things big and small. We spend a lot of time in nature now, like this picture of the bird's nest. We spent a whole afternoon collecting sticks, then building a bird's nest. I discovered cargo biking, and after obsessively watching for 9 months, we went ahead and bought our cargo bike, which is like our joy machine, and we love it. So you can look far and wide for sources of inspiration. But here's another thing is as you are looking, or even as you're evaluating your own goals that you have, look for the themes and what you are really truly drawn to. So for example, sometimes it is really obvious. Like I thought cargo biking looked really fun and I got a cargo bike and it was really fun, like 1-to-1, very clear. But sometimes it's a little bit different. So I was always drawn to really big families. I love the Hello, can you guys hear me? I don't know what just happened. Let's see in the chat box. Are you all here still? Yes, I'm back. Okay. Now pause with me for a second. I need to see if what's happening with your recording really fast. My goodness. Okay. Well, we might have another recording issue. We'll see. We're going to keep trying. All right. Plowing ahead. Don't know. Here we go. Okay. So jumping back in here with themes and what we're really looking for. Let's see. Sharing my screen. Pulling up the chat. Yeah, Kristen, that's what it said last night too, and then it didn't have a recording. So we're gonna hope. We're gonna hope here. Let's see. Done. I don't want to share. Here we go. Oh, I keep saying present. Okay, here we go. Presenting. Here we go. Okay. So so sometimes it's a 1-to-1 theme of what you want to do, but sometimes your dream is a little bit different than what you had anticipated. So for example, so I love this idea of having a really big family. And so that was my goal. Like I want to have lots of kids close together. That sounds awesome. But I started to realize that actually isn't my goal. What I loved was what I observed in the big families, which is a really strong family culture where they've got these really great traditions. They're doing fun things. That is my goal, which is way more in my circle of influence than the number of kids and how close together they are and all those things. So as you are evaluating and thinking about your dreams and what you're focusing on and what your goals are, I really encourage you to start thinking through whether you need to lean in or let go of those dreams and really commit to them, or if they need to morph and shift into something that's a little more true. And also consider where you're at on the path from surviving to thriving and be okay with that. Sometimes your goal is just going to be to figure out meal planning, and that's okay. It's okay that you're not working on something grand and big and showy. Like that's okay. So on our next step, step 2 is create your plan. So the first thing that I love to do at the beginning of the year is to create your vision for that year. And this looks like it's so variant, but it can include a word for the year, goals that you want to set for yourself, habits you want to work on that year, family traditions or culture things that you want to set, intentions that you might have. And so here's an example. In 2018, I picked the word for the year, which was nurture, and I had habits to cultivate around nurturing, and I had ways that I wanted to nurture myself, ways I wanted to nurture my family, things that I wanted to do. And it was great. It was all around this fun word. 2019 was so crazy. My entire vision for the year was just change my thinking, better thoughts, like change my thought path. That was it. That was my whole vision. In other years, I've evaluated my life on 10 life domains, and I had a goal to improve each one. So there's lots of variation based on where you're at in life as to what your vision can be. And then the next step is to break your vision down and kind of sandbox it out. So this solved so many of my where do I put my thought problems, was this introduction of doing a quarter in my notebook. And this is a place where you can brainstorm your entire year and break down uh, goals and projects and activities and places you want to go and things you want to do, influences from Pinterest and or ideas that you got from another family, and write it down in the appropriate month or quarter so that you can see how things balance out through the year, but also to like set a trigger reminder for yourself, like, oh yeah, there was this really cool thing that I saw a family do for Valentine's Day, and you wrote down in a relevant spot so you'll remember before Valentine's Day that you want to try. So this is not a commitment, nothing's permanent, and I add to it throughout the year. But it's like a really great spot to be able to take that vision and sandbox it through. So for example, maybe you want to run a marathon, and you know that that race is in October in your state that you want to go to. So in October, you'd write one marathon, and then back in July, maybe you're writing out training plan and start training. And so what you can do then is, as you're planning out your months, you get to July and you're like, oh, that's right, I wanted to run a marathon. It's a good time to put in a training plan. So this just helps you plan out and trigger your goal reminders throughout the year. And then step 3 is to live your life. So let's talk a little bit about living your life with a planner, which we can more on, but here we go. So the most important thing with a planner is that there's flexibility as moms, because otherwise planning becomes incredibly discouraging. And it's the lack of flexibility in typical planning systems that caused me to stop using them entirely for 2 years, which wasn't actually helpful because then I was kind of drifting, not being intentional and wasting pockets of time and working on busy work instead of things that really mattered. So, and part of flexibility is being okay with not using your planner all the time. And there are stretches of time when I'm in survival mode where it's very sparse, and that's totally fine. But I always can pick it up and I know right where I left off and what my goals were and what I wanted to do. So this is meant to help you live your life, not. And we're back. All right. I think my internet keeps cutting out on you guys, but here we go. Can I get in the chat box that you can hear me and we're still good? Thumbs up. Excellent. Thank you. Okay, so now this is a really important shift when it comes to being flexible, which is plan your weeks, not your days. So I have a very small section here. I'm using my cursor to show you. On the left, where I write down scheduled appointments. And that's just scheduled appointments. On the right, I'm writing down day specific to-dos. These are things that absolutely have to be done that day. Otherwise, they are broken up into these context-based to-dos. So after I write down my absolute have-tos for appointments and absolute have-tos for to-dos for days, which is not very much, there's not a lot of space to fill that up. The next thing that you need to do is pick your big 3 for the week. So these are 3 priorities that are important to me. Now I try and kind of break them into categories of me, like my personal goals, my family, and then beyond, which is like work or community service or something you're doing for a friend. And I try and make sure that I don't go too long without including all 3 of those in my big 3 for the week, because I know that that is going to help me keep balance in my life. Now, some weeks I only choose 1, some weeks it's all for my family, or some weeks it's really all for my business, to be honest. Like right now when I'm working on creating this webinar. So it changes, but it's a mechanism that helps me stay really, really focused on what matters that week. And it really decreases the amount of time I spend doing mindless, busy work. And I even plan all the other tasks in context. So for example, if I need to set up an eye doctor appointment, I'd write it in phone, and under errands, I would say, go to the eye doctor if it was that same week. If I wanted to hang a picture on the wall, I would write buy picture frame on computer if I was buying it online, or under errands if I wanted to go to the store. And then under home, I would write hang picture frame. So what would happen now is my kids start playing. really well together, I'd hop on the phone and make the calls for my appointments. Or we're all kind of just hanging out and they can help me with a project. So we'd go hang the picture frame together. Or we're really stir crazy and we need to get out of the house. Well, then I just look at my errands list and we go do them all. This is so efficient to break up your to-dos into both your weeks and your days. This allows for so much flexibility. Very rarely do I get to everything done on my to-do list for the day, but I almost always accomplish everything that I set out to do that week. I've also learned what I can handle in the week. So this is not a place to do like your brain dump. This is stuff to write down what you actually need and want to accomplish this week to move towards your goals and like necessary life stuff. And this is magic. This is so powerful. This will make it so that you guys can get way more done than you probably ever have before. And with that, though, it's really important that you create boundaries because setting up your week so this way allows you to get a lot done. But you have to remember that life isn't about just getting stuff done. It's about relationships. So I actually create blocks of time during the day where I am not having access to my phone or any screens or anything. I'm totally disconnected. And where my kids can have my undivided attention. And this doesn't mean that I'm just like sitting on the floor with them, but it means that I am there and I am not feeling pulled to like get a ton of stuff done. And the great thing is that because everything is written down and very clearly organized, both big picture and down to the weeks and the days, I'm totally present and I can just let my mind turn off and be there. It also helps me to know like, okay, everyone is just hanging out. We can go work on something together. And I know what's written down in my home section and we can move forward on projects together, or we can go run errands together, but I'm not wasting time on something mindless, or even more importantly, I'm not wasting energy on being frustrated about being interrupted so that when I do have time to work, I have a little bit more capacity built to just jump right in and be focused because I wasn't wasting that energy trying to get stuff done halfway. So I'm not sure why you showed up today. Maybe it's because you're frustrated that you've lost yourself in motherhood and you feel like you aren't growing. It could be that you're feeling that pull between doing something that you absolutely love or your work and your family. It could maybe be the guilt of not being engaged and present with your family. Or maybe you see that other moms are doing more than household tasks and you wonder where on earth they find the time. Maybe you're just coming to hang out with me, which is awesome too. But this 3-step framework to create a life you love is absolutely amazing. And it can absolutely transform your entire life and motherhood experience. And I believe that if you stayed with me here, that you have what it takes to be able to move forward on your greatest goals and to build the strong family. So it works. This is exactly what I've done in my life and with my business to confidently navigate my days, build a strong family, and move forward on big goals. And I've helped many other mothers have see that same progress and growth in their own lives this year with the release of the 2019 planner. It doesn't matter what season of life you're in right now, anywhere along the path to surviving to thriving, it's all about baby steps and taking action. So some of the big benefits here, you get to be present with your family. You get to see the progress in your life, build momentum and energy. You get to live in your circle of influence. You get to make progress on your biggest goals and build a strong family. And you get to let go of the guilt and the overwhelm. So if there's one thing that you can take away today, it's that you can let go of that guilt and that overwhelm and move forward on your greatest goals while building a strong family. It's literally changed my life, my world, and the world of other mothers just like you. And it's very much a replicable system that you can apply. So some of the obvious question here is, how can you apply the system to your own life so that you can thrive? So you have a choice. You can do it like I did with years of writing down in notebooks and figuring it out what I've shared with you today and transferring it. Or you can do it quickly and simply by using the Thriving in Motherhood Planner. So what is it? It's my complete step-by-step planning system to intentionally build a life that you love. It's designed to like literally hold your hand through the entire process by just simply opening the pages and grabbing a pen. It's the quickest way to get from feeling overwhelmed and guilty and confusion to clarity, confidence, and seeing progress. And with that comes enthusiasm for life and motherhood. So let's look exactly what's inside. So first of all, if this was like all new to you today, we've got a quick start guide right in the front, as well as planning checklists for your day, your week, your month, your quarter, and your year to help you walk through every step of the way. So you can refer back to it as much as you want. as you're learning how this works. We also have this incredible vision workbook section at the very beginning, which helps you get clear on what matters to you and what life you want to create. And it's very thorough. So you start by remembering this year, 2019, and then building a foundations of values and priorities and things that really matters to you. It allows you to take time to think and reflect about your gifts and your talents and how you can use them to bless yourself, your family, and the world, and pick a word for the year. So it's very, very, very comprehensive. And I'm really excited because this year there is a bonus personal audio retreat. So I would love it if we could all like fly together and be in our own like special places and meet together for meals and chat. But this is the next best thing. So I've got a personal audio retreat that guides and coaches you through this vision section this year. And I'm super excited to use it myself. As I was putting it together, I'm like, this is going to be so helpful. And it allows you to just go at it through your own pace. You can just listen to it and then write it down, or go at it at the same time. You can choose. It's super flexible. It's going to be awesome. The next thing is the goals and habits at a glance. So after you do all of this great thought work, we've got a place here that you can just write it on one page as a quick way to reference it, because I think sometimes it can get really easy to just forget what you wanted to do. And this is a quick way to reference it. All right, these are the quarterly planning pages. This is your sandbox that we talked a lot about, and it helps you create this balanced, meaningful life at the beginning of the year. So it's a place to brainstorm and to remind yourself what is important to you and especially to your family. Monthly calendars, this is pretty standard, but it helps you just keep track of your appointments. And I love it because I always feel so awkward when I like pull up my phone and I can't find the appointment, or it takes me forever to put it in. And it's just nice to be able to pull out a piece of paper and say, yes, I'm free. It works. Okay, this is something that we didn't talk about, and so I'm going to spend a minute here. The monthly review and planning. So one of the really important planning routines is to plan monthly. So at the start of the year, you set your focus, your goals, and your projects first. And I also plan in self-care. This is so that as I start the month and I see like, okay, it's going to be a really busy season, I'm going to go to bed by 9 o'clock every night. Or I see that I'm starting to drift and spend a lot of time on social media, I'm going to set a timer and read a book for 30 minutes every day. Or I can tell that I haven't been exercising for a while, I need to start doing that. I know I will feel a lot better. So it allows you to just like remind yourself that, okay, what do I need to do to take care of myself this month? This is also where I would look back when I sit down to do this planning. I look back at my quarter spread and I say, okay, what did I have for this quarter? What did I have for the month that I had kind of thought about? Does that still fit in my life? Is this still a good idea? And I firm up my plans for my projects and my goals. Then at the end of the month, this is a place to recognize and celebrate all that you've done. So you write down, what did you learn? What did you discover? What did you experience? What have you accomplished? Where did you go? What did you do with your family? What books did you read? This is like a magic exercise, because when I go into this, I like start feeling like discouraged and depressed and wishing that things were going better than they were. And by the time I end it, I'm like feeling like $1,000,000. Like, oh yeah, we're doing great. This is awesome. Life is great. I love my life. I'm feeling so grateful right now. Like it turns things around every month, and every 30 days doing that is just such a powerful tool. And it also helps me reality check in hard seasons when I start to believe those things like, all I do is wash dishes. All I do is, whatever, all I do is, this helps me see that that's not true, which is also really important. All right, so then these are the weekly pages that we talked about, and this just helps keep track of your needs for your household and your big projects and your goals all in one space, and meals, because everyone's happier when they are fed. And then we've got the think and process pages. So this is what I talked about with not having enough space in the right places. So every single week, you've got these bonus think and process pages to do whatever you want. Maybe you need to brainstorm a big to-do list. Maybe it's brainstorm. Maybe it's plan a party. Maybe it's take notes from a class that you're in. Maybe it's plan a shopping list or draw with your kids. Like whatever it is, there are 2 pages every week to capture phone numbers and addresses so you don't lose it. Everything is in one space. I love this. This saves me so much. And then every quarter, we're going to have a quarterly review. This reviews how things are going. How did the previous 90-day go? What went well? What didn't go well? And it also allows you to switch your focus and think about like, okay, what's What do I need to focus on next? And look back at your vision. Is it relevant? Do you need to change your goals? Do you need to create new goals? Do you need to just recommit and lean in deeper into your goals? And this year, we've also added in a life domain, like 10 life domain assessment. So what I mean by that is oftentimes when we become moms, we focus on like our parental role, maybe with our spouse, the relationship with marriage, and like what we're doing with our homes. And if you're working, work. But there's so much more to life than just those 3 or 4 areas. And so every 90 days, you get a chance to kind of take an assessment and see where you're at on your whole life, the fuller picture, so that you can see like, okay, I'm neglecting this area and it's important and I'm going to spend some time focusing on that. So it just helps you as an individual stay a little more balanced throughout the year. All right. And then another like, oh, okay, my brain is now happy. Everything's got a home. This is the 2021 looking ahead. So as they come to the end of the year, like maybe right now, there's probably appointments that are coming up or vacations that are being scheduled or things that are starting to happen, or even just ideas like, ooh, I want to try this next year. This is the space where you can start capturing those ideas so that they don't get lost or start just like gumming up your brain and you're thinking about them all the time. This is a place that you can put them down and let them go and know that you're not going to miss anything. So I want you to imagine that yourself at the end of 2020, that you lived your year engaged with your family and that your relationships are better than they've ever been. That you used your year using your moments of the time well, and you're amazed at how not only you're able to get things done efficiently for your house, but you're also able to move forward on some of your biggest goals and things that were so important to you. That you have a record to prove to yourself that you grew, you changed, you learned things, you read things, you went places, you accomplished things. And that as you're looking back across your year, that you just feel so grateful for your life and happy with that you get to spend your day with the people that you love and doing the things that you love. Imagine that you live the year letting go of guilt and saying yes to the things that really mattered most to you and no to the things that didn't, and that your time and energy is really being spent on the things that are most important. And that you made building a strong family a priority, that you set the appropriate boundaries so that your family is getting stronger together. So this is introducing the Thriving in Motherhood Planner. All you have to do is open the planner and grab a pen, and you will start to see these amazing changes in your life. Okay, how much will it cost? So first of all, this is going to cost you less than a weekly splurge on chocolate or avocados, depending on what your uh, preference is. It will cost you less than going out to eat twice with your family this year, maybe 3 or 4 times if you've got a 2-person or 3-person family. It is going to cost half of one visit with a life coach. So they could sit down with you and help coach you through these things, or you can just grab a planner and your worksheets and your pen and do it yourself. And it's also, most importantly, less than a monthly video streaming subscription. So there's a lot of options there. So the price point here, if you want to get the coil planner, it's $55. And this is only available to purchase until November 18th, because I'm going to order them and coil them myself and then ship them to you before December's over. So that happens right now. You can also get a $45 perfect bound planner, which let me show that to you. I use this all, this is straight off Amazon, and I used this all last year and loved it. It's held up super great. You can see it's used, but I have no qualms with using it again. And I thought that not having a coil would bother me. I think having a coil is better, which is why we're jumping through hoops to get everybody coils that orders now. But it's still great. It's a great option. And then also there's a $25 PDF. So hopefully at whatever price point is right for you right now, it is available. Plus the special bonus that is included with all of these versions, which is your personal audio retreat guide, and to help guide and coach you through creating your vision for 2020, which I'm super excited about. So this is Madeline. I love her story because she started out 2019 as definitely not a planner person. And she said that it ended up fitting seamlessly into her life. And she just loves confidently going into every week, knowing she's got her meals planned out. She knows what errands she needs to run. She knows what has to be done for the household tasks to get moving forward. She said that she feels so much more control in her life, and that it feels good to feel like a responsible adult, and it's really blessing her family because it's increasing her confidence. She's also starting to move forward on some pretty big goals that she's been sitting on for a long time. And it is fun to see her just like taking on life. Megan shares that she's been able to see progress when she doesn't necessarily feel progress. It has helped me keep perspective along the way. Okay, Rachel just said, this is awesome. I love that you have a PDF option because I honestly love using a 3-ring binder as my planner so I can stick other things in there as needed. Yeah, Rachel, absolutely. And I'm glad you brought that up. The other thing that's awesome about the PDF is that it's 8.5 by 11. So if you want more space or a bigger planner, that's for you. The bound ones, here's the bound one I didn't show you. These are smaller. These are 7.5 by 9 inches or something like that, 7 by 9. So a little bit more smaller. I like that it fits in my diaper bag or purse or whatever, but both are great, whatever your preference is. Then we've got Pamela, who is my incredible mother, which I think just proves that it's a great like it doesn't matter where you are in your season of life. But she shares that this is a tool that helps just remind her what she wants to do. It's not something that's adding guilt or stress to her life. It just is a reminder that what she wants to do, because life gets disrupted, and when she's ready to start working again, she's got a plan and she's ready to go. So the recap here for you is that the Thriving in Motherhood Planner is a complete system to help you build a life that you love. And for less than the cost of a video streaming service, you can uncover and move forward on your greatest goals, live a present life with your family, and let go of the guilt and the overwhelm. So if anyone has any questions, you're welcome to put them into the chat now. If not, I'd love to hear a thumbs up and we're good. And we can talk about anything from the planner to the system or mindset things, anything that might have come up today. Okay. Looks like we might be good, which is fantastic. So I just want to thank you. Thank you for joining me here. Thank you for this hour that we spent together. I'm super grateful to be able to share this with you. And I hope that you're able to find a solution that fits you and your season of life right now, and that you're able to feel empowered to go forward and make progress on creating a life that you love. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And I'm going to go ahead and stop this gathering. But thank you so much for everyone that joined, and you are absolutely welcome. Thank you, Rachel, Amanda, Kim, Michelle, Pamela, Andrea. Thank you guys so much for being here today. Okay. Oh, Michelle, do you make a boy version? Not yet, but this is definitely a system that everybody uses. And I've got feedback from people that aren't moms or people that are single or teenagers, lots of interest. So there might be some big things coming for 2021. We'll see.